So now that we've talked a little bit about what DBT is, let's go into talking about like what some skills might look like under each of these categories. So again, we're going to start with the idea of acceptance, where we're not trying to change anything. We're just trying to like really tune into what our reality is. So mindfulness, the skill that we'll talk about here is feels pretty simple. It's something that takes practice though. So it probably won't work right away. We have to kind of build up that muscle. It's just like you're going to the gym to get fat muscles. You need to do the same thing to learn your skills. So mindfulness, again, it's about tuning into your present moment. So essentially you would be able to use this skill, describe and observe. And it is literally just being able to describe what is going on for you, to kind of give it a name and give us a little bit of control over something that's probably out of our control. So that might look like being really anxious, and being able to say to yourself, okay, I'm really anxious right now. I'm noticing that my heart is racing and starting to bring attention to what's happening in your body. A lot of times our emotions and our nervous system go hand in hand, and it's hard to tease out which one is causing the most distress, and we need to actually bring them together and understand. So the mindfulness will be noticing what's happening to you in that current moment, and then also being able to observe what's happening in that moment for you. It kind of goes hand in hand of just observing the fact like, I am triggered right now, I'm allowed to be triggered, and giving yourself permission to just be how you are. And mindfulness will also go into the idea of your wise mind. DBT has, it kind of works under the function that we have three minds: our logic mind, our emotional mind, and then our wise mind. As humans, like, we need both of these things. We can't be emotionless robots, and we cannot be completely void of emotion. It's just not how the human experience works. So we want you to be able to use mindfulness to find your wise mind, which is another one of the skills. And then if we're going to go into distress tolerance, so distress tolerance, these skills, again, are not meant to change the circumstances. They're just meant to help you manage the emotional experience that you're having. So for this one, DBT loves acronyms. You will see that we have a lot of those in here. So this one is the TIP skill, TIP, and there's a second P there as well. So the T stands for temperature. It means just changing your body temperature in some way. A lot of times we'll use an ice roller, dunk your whole face in some ice, taking a cold shower, doing anything that's going to change your body chemistry. Again, we're not trying to change your circumstances. We're just trying to change what's happening in your body. The I stands for intense exercise. That means doing some jumping jacks, going for a run, hitting the punching bag, doing something that's going to exert a lot of energy, that's going to kickstart your heart rhythm and different chemicals and adrenaline in your body to just regulate the nervous system, so then we can start to figure out what we're going to do about the situation at hand. And then our first P stands for paced breathing. This is really traditional, taking your deep breaths, make them as dramatic as possible. You want to go in through your nose and really sigh out through your mouth, to really start to get a rhythm and kind of get oxygen flowing throughout your body. And a lot of times we pair that with the second P, which is paired muscle relaxation. And that's a technique used where you're just tensing every part of your body. So for your fist, you might make a fist, you might put your fists together like this, you might like squint your eyes, and you do that for a few seconds, and then you release. And it kind of, you can feel a little bit of a release in your body. And again, it changes the chemistry of what's happening in your body just to regulate your nervous system. We're trying to accept the fact that we are distressed. There's an active trigger, something's happening, and we just need to like get back into our body. So that's what we're looking at when we're looking at the acceptance type of skills. And then when we start to go over to the change skills, this is where we're going to have the emotional regulation and interpersonal effectiveness. So for emotional regulation, we're going to start with another mnemonic. We love those. Is the stop skill, and it's honestly exactly what it sounds like. The stop skill, the S stands for stop, like literally stop what you're doing, recognize that you're not feeling well, and the T is take a step back, and that can mean just like taking a minute, letting people know like, hang on. And it could be removing yourself completely from the situation and just being like, I need a minute, and going to do your other skills while you try to regulate. The O is for the observe. That's when we start to like pull in that mindfulness of like, okay, there's something going on here, let me collect all the information, check the facts to make sure I'm not making up a scenario that doesn't exist in my head. And the P is proceeding mindfully. That's when we've found our wise mind and we can come into a situation and not react in a highly reactive or impulsive way. So that would be one of the emotional regulation, and also the cope ahead plan. So this, again, because it's a long-term skill, a lot of times you start to build this insight where you're like, oh, I'm going into a situation that's going to make me feel really uncomfy. Let me get in my mind, kind of visualize what I might need. Let me practice in my head how I might cope with this. So then you're kind of, again, eliminating some of the distress that you might typically feel because you're becoming more aware. Interpersonal effectiveness is one of the final skill sets, and this is about making change within your relationships and talks about how to have healthy lines of communication and really learn how to set boundaries for yourself. So one of the mnemonic devices, of course, that we use for this one is Dear Man. And it kind of walks you through the steps if you're having a conversation with a loved one where you're navigating conflict or trying to set a boundary, we would use this skill set. So the D would stand for describe, literally just describing what's going on and why you're having this conversation. The E would stand for express. So you're expressing how you feel, how you received whatever kind of happened in the situation without placing blame on the other person. It's really about your emotional experience. The A stands for assert. So this is about being assertive and being able to speak up without over apologizing, but also maintaining like a level of just respect for each other. And the R stands for reinforce. So you're kind of going back and just reinforcing that this is about your experience. This is about what your needs are. And then the man kind of comes together, just talking about being mindful of being respectful towards the person you're talking about, appearing confident. Sometimes we have to fake it till we make it to just really like be able to show up for ourselves and show that like what we're talking about is serious. And then the N will stand for negotiate, which just means being open-minded to compromise. Sometimes we don't see the full picture until we have a conversation and understand somebody else's perspective. So a lot of times we have to find a middle ground, and that's what makes relationships work, is being able to find that. So those are the skills that you might find in these modules, and you will just build and build on all of those skills to help you lead a healthy and functional life, even with borderline personality disorder.